Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a DFS strategy video for the 2021 ZOZO Championship, which is now being played at the Sherwood Country Club. Last year it was over in Japan at a golf course I don't think I'm going to try to pronounce. I think it was like Nagashino. I'm not sure. But this is the second time the tournament has been played. It is the first time it has been played at Sherwood. Now, Sherwood has been a venue site for past tournaments, but they were very limited field, like 20 people, 18 people, I think. So course history isn't really there. And I think the last time that any tournament like that has been played was in 2013. So we're not going to go back and look at that information. So no course history this week. We will be looking at recent form. And I will also bring up the bucket system. But this week I did not do a course fit video. I did not do a stat fit video. I think I'm going to nix the stat fit video going forward. I just don't see how it really adds any value. It's obviously adding information for you guys, but I really don't follow up much. I mean, I used to do the top 20 stat thing. And showed you how results ended up, but all in all, it really didn't serve a purpose. Plus, I actually have something new in the works. It's a new updated spreadsheet that will be looking at last week's stats, recent form stats. So if you're with me, usually I talk about recent form going back the last 7 weeks. So I'm going to include strokes gained, scoring average, and DK points going back the last 7 weeks. So we'll kind of do this all-encompassing analysis. And I'm actually really excited because now we get to really look to see how the last week bucket does with strokes gained, scoring average, that kind of thing. So I will present that here after the course fit video, somewhere in between that and the strategy page or the DK page. So stick with that. Timestamps are in the description, so you can get to any point of the video that your heart desires. The red progress bar has chapter mode enabled, so you can actually see where you are and where you want to be. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the course history or the course fit part of the video. So we always start with the tournament fact sheet. As you can see, ZOZO Championship played at Sherwood Country Club, Thousand Oaks, California. I guess I don't really have to go through the whole tournament stats. You can see it right in front of you. Tournament setup is par 36, front 9 and back 9 for a total of par 72. Yardage is 7,073. That's pretty short for a par 72. However, there are some holes where you really can't bomb it. There's a par 5, I believe, that it runs out at 300, and you really can't hit it over the little ravine or whatever you want to call it that separates the two fairways. So really, I think I watched Tiger play his tournament. It was like the Hero Challenge, or no, it was the Target Hero Challenge, I think, something like that. And he hit an iron off the tee and then a 3-wood to the front bunker. So I'm guessing most people are going to either be hitting fairway wood or iron off that hole. That kind of, mitigates the bomber advantage at a short 7,000 yard golf course. But I guess we'll wait and find out how this will end up playing. Again, we haven't seen this course for like 7 years, so I'm intrigued. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. Stimp meter's running at 12.5. That's pretty fast. I'm not sure how undulating the greens are. I really haven't heard much other than strokes gained capping on the Preferred Lines podcast. I actually didn't even hear him talk about how fast the greens are, but it's a country club. You would assume that they're going to manicure the greens to roll really fast. Most private courses are like that. Green size is 7,200. I feel like that's a little north of average on tour. I was reading an article that says that was average. So, I mean, let's put it this way. They're not tiny greens. They're not large greens. Not going to really talk about bunkers. 4 holes were water, or number of water hazards, 4. 8 holes where water is in play. And then we are on bent grass. Everything is bent grass. Apparently, this had a huge renovation that happened sometime in, I don't even remember where it was. I guess the renovation year was 2016. So they were Bermuda greens and Bermuda fairways. So everything has been ripped up and now it's bent grass. It's a Jack Nicklaus designed golf course architect. And Jack creates a lot of golf courses that are very similar to Augusta. So I shouldn't say very similar, but similar nonetheless, where it's a lot of bent grass. Memorial is bent grass. I can't remember other Jack Nicklaus courses, but also with Jack Nicklaus courses, you have the same winners year in and year out. Like Tiger Woods typically wins at Jack Nicklaus golf courses. I forget the list of names that I had or that I read, but I think like Zach Johnson's one of them also. It's kind of a thinking man's golf course, typically. Jack Nicklaus design courses, that is. So maybe the veterans are going to do well at this golf course. Maybe. I guess we'll wait and find out. The other notable thing is there are 5 par 5s and 5 par 3s. A lot of people make a huge note, I guess you want to call it, to say that there are 5 par 5s, but if it's a par 72, you have to offset that with another par 3. So that also means there's less par 4s. There would be 2 less par 4s. 2 less? Yeah, that works out. Sounded weird. But yeah, 2 less par 4s, 1 more par 3, 1 more par 5. I mean, you would like to think that the scoring average is going to be lower based off of par 5s. I mean, you have the eagle opportunities, so you would say bombers get the advantage, and I would say they do, obviously. Even the par 5 that I was talking about, that's split in half, where you can't carry it further, or you can't really move it further than 300 off the tee. The bombers get to get home in that into using fairway wood. And I wouldn't be surprised to see someone use an iron. Like, the game has evolved quite a bit since 2013 when Tiger did it, with an iron and wood. So, again, time will tell. We'll wait and find out. I'm not going to put a huge emphasis in trying to get, bombers to play well here. I think it's going to take an all-around game, and I think it's going to take, obviously, 4 good rounds of golf, obviously. But I don't think we're going to see... I don't think we're going to see precision guys have an advantage over bombers, and I don't think we're going to see bombers have an advantage over precision. I think this is... It seems like it's a fair test. So let's go ahead and get into the course breakdown. So every week, what I like to do in the course fit videos is go over my analysis of the golf course. Now, I originally posted something on Twitter that someone had asked somebody who has played this golf course before, that somebody, again, was strokes gained capping from the Preferred Lines, or not from, but he was on the Preferred Lines podcast this week. He was talking about the golf course. One of the guys that is... that saw my tweets asked him, draws, because I originally had a ton of draws here on Off the Tee. So basically I was corrected, and the corrections are in front of you right now. Of course, I like to use flyovers when I try to determine my course analysis, and I will also use satellite imagery. I only had the satellite imagery, so there were some tees that looked like the trees just to the left of the tee box were in a golfer's way. I'm going to be curious to see if that is the case when we watch, like the PGA Tour live, because honestly, one of the trees on one of the tee boxes, I can't remember exactly which one it is. If it was, like a lot of these already say like off the tee depends on tee placement. But again, trees guard very close to the left. You can see that a lot. Looks like tree issues off the tee to the left. I was corrected on this hole. It doesn't require a draw. So there were a few things that I had updated. You can always go to my Twitter page and see exactly what the original post was as opposed to what was corrected here. But long story short, I go through each hole, look off the tee, what kind of shot shape is required, into the green, which I have labeled APP, which is approach, what shot shape is required into the green. So all in all, I tally them down here, and off the tee draws, there are only 2 holes that we could see that require a draw. 6 holes, I shouldn't say require a draw. Let me correct that. I think when we look at the course layout, it's going to favor these ball flights. One way is visually. Some guys are very visually enhanced, or maybe visually, what's the word I'm looking for? Handicapped. So if they, if it's a hole that looks difficult to their type of shot shape, they just can't see it any, whatever, and they try to manufacture something that they typically can't do. But for the most part, it favors, golfers with a certain shot shape. So that's all this means, and maybe that's how I should change my terminology. So off the tee favors draws only on 2 of them, favors fades on 6 of them, and it does not matter on 5 of the holes. And again, rule of thumb is when it doesn't matter, always lean towards the fade golfers, because again, fade produces more control. Off the tee fades, ones that favor we already talked about it. Approach, those that favor draws, 5 holes. Those that favor fades, 4, and those that don't matter, 9. So although we see more draws than fades, just comparing the 2, we do have 9 holes where it doesn't matter. Again, we want to favor golfers that hit a fade. So all in all, and again, I shouldn't say again, I need to put this on here. This is all determined based off a right-handed golfer. So if you're looking at left-handed golfers, just flip them. So if it says draw, we want to see fade. And when we see fade, we want to see draw. One golfer in particular that's a lefty that hits a draw would be Brian Harmon. Bubba and Phil can shape shots, almost on command. But I'll tell you something, both Phil and Bubba are struggling hitting a draw. So when you see fade here, that would be draw for them. And I honestly I haven't seen good draws either from Bubba or Phil. So keep that in mind. It might be, it might be nonsense, might be noise, but from what I've seen, they're not hitting the draw that well. Definitely, like last week, I liked Bubba because the par 5s required fades into the green, which are just up his alley. And for the most part, he chewed him up. So he did really well last week. So that concludes the course fit, because I don't have course history. And I think I'm just going to include the grass stats in the whole DK strategy page. So let's go there right now. I think actually let's go to the bucket system. So if you watched the review video that I had with Chad Eckert, we talked about how there wouldn't be a bucket video, or there wouldn't be any buckets for this tournament, primarily because we don't have enough data, which is obviously very, very true. But if I scroll down to the top 10, I've included some data over here on the right side. Now, this data is off of all of the limited events where there's around 78 golfers, like there is in this field, which are also no cut events. So I tallied up every single total for the last year bucket and last week bucket. And if you're not familiar with the bucket system, I'll link a video right up top, top right hand corner. You can go ahead, click on that, get yourself familiar with it, and then come back here. But what we see from the buckets, the number 1 ranked range would be the 1 to 20 range for last year buckets. And that would be golfers who finished, I'm sorry, that would not be correct. I don't know why I think I updated it up here. But I updated it up here and it didn't update it down here. Let's start that over. So the number 1 bucket are golfers who did not play in the tournament the year before. I really don't know why this is all. Oh man. Well. Sorry, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so this is gonna happen. Unbelievable. Okay. So, let's start that over. The number 1 bucket, golfers who did not play the year before. That comes in at a clip of 37.3%. So that is all of the tournaments you see up here. CJ Cup, WGC Bridgestone, WGC Mexico, WGC HSBC, and the WGC St. Jude for the 2 years that has been played. Again, all the totals. These are all from golfers from the top 10 of those tournaments and what their finishing positions were the year before. So obviously how many years this tournament's been played or these tournaments have been played, that's what the state is referencing. And 37% of top 10 finishers fell into this group, into the did not play bucket. The second ranked bucket are golfers who finished 20th, first to 20th, so top 20 the year before. And that's 34%. So when you combine both of them, that's 71% of golfers either did not play or finished inside the top 20. I don't have averages for you to go by, but basically you could make your whole entire lineup with nothing but last year 1s and last year 2s. The next bucket would be your last year 3s. That's at a 16% clip. The next bucket after that, again, I don't know why I didn't update this completely. This looks ridiculous. Your next bucket would be the 41 to 60 range, and then it drops down to 61 to 80, 81 plus. Now, the last year bucket is going to be a little bit more difficult to go by because we only have 1 year worth of data here at the ZOZO Championship, but I actually do believe, again, as I've done this, week in, week out, your typical top 2 buckets are usually the did not plays in the 1st to 20th. A lot of times the missed cut withdraw bucket down here, the 81 plus, that usually comes into the fray only when there is an event the week before that actually has a cut. This one does not, so we're not really going to see anything that has a cut. Now, Jason Day actually does fall under this bucket. Not for last year. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about last week. Okay, so let's reverse that a little bit. Obviously, we're not going to have a cut at this event, so we're never going to see golfers in this, but sometimes we see withdraws. So I was kind of thinking about the CJ Cup with Jason Day withdrawing last week. He would be in that bucket for next year. But we're not there. We're not talking about that. So anyways, the last week bucket. Now this one has a little bit more pull, but in a way, it's difficult because the WGC St. Jude, the tournaments that were played right before that. So in 2019, it was the US Open, I believe, or the Open, one of the two. It was a major championship. So you can bet most of the golfers actually played in that event. Now, last year was the Canadian Open. Actually, last year was not the Canadian Open. Where are you? My apologies. I thought I would remember this off the top of my head, but obviously I have not. So the 3M Open was played prior to. And that was for this year. The year before was the Open Championship. Okay. So this is when it became a WGC. Now you can see the top 10 leaderboards just stuffed with golfers who did play. In 2020, with the 3M Open, no one really played that tournament, the week before. I mean, sure, we do have some, but primarily nobody. And a lot can be said, similar to a lot of these other tournaments. I can tell you right now, nobody really played the week before the WGC HSBC. A lot of people actually do play before the WGC Mexico. And Bridgestone, I don't remember off the top of my head, but you can see the did not plays were pretty high, pretty heavy. I would anticipate we would see probably, my goodness, this is all messed up too. I don't know where the color coding came from, but sure, that all looks good. Okay, so the number one bucket would be the did not plays. Just overwhelmingly golfers who did not play the week before. Golfers from the 1st to 20 range would follow second, and almost double from the next range. So like did not plays were just off the chart, 50%, 57% to be exact. Add that with the 16%, and you basically have the same number as you would for last year. So really the did not plays and the 1st to 20th the week before or the year before really play huge. So, okay. Let's look at this really quickly. This is last year's result. When we look at top 10 finishes at the ZOZO Championship, this was your week before's results. We had 7 golfers finish 1st to 20th, 3 golfers who did not play, and then only 2 other golfers sprinkled in the other ranges. Now, I do have the 1 to 20 range or bucket as a 7, or not 7, but as a 2, a last year 2. There are 7 golfers in that bucket, just from last year. 3 were in the did not plays. So why does this get a 2 over this getting a 1? I think it was just sample size in a way. Primarily because the overwhelming number here that you see from the other tournaments kind of equals it out. Now, I will say this. I think we will see most come from these 2 buckets. Regardless if it's 4 and 3, 3 and 5, it's going to be one of these 2. So I would say don't look at this bucket, if it's a 2. I guess I wouldn't really necessarily look at it any different from this. Plus, we also have to look at who's in each bucket anyways. So that is going to conclude the bucket system. Again, I use data for all of the no-cut events that had around 78 people in the field, looked at all of their buckets, applied it to this week at the ZOZO Championship. I will say the ZOZO Championship this week is very similar to my analysis on the CJ Cup last week. Now, the CJ Cup typically had the CIMB played the year before, or not the year before, the week before, so the year prior. So you would get kind of an Asian swing of tournaments where you could go play the CIMB, get a little acquainted with the area, jet lag maybe, then play in the CJ Cup, or I think the HSBC was around that time too. And from there go to ZOZO. So that would be from like South Korea, the CJ Cup being played at in Jeju Island. You would come to Japan, which obviously is going to be another flight, but it won't be that long, and play in the ZOZO. So what I'm getting at is last week at the CJ Cup, I was saying how I think it's going to be beneficial for golfers who played in the Shriners Hospital, because that was in Vegas and they didn't have to go very far to the next tournament, obviously. And we did see quite a few golfers that had played the week before. So we didn't really get that, let's put it this way. It very much matched the year before, because a lot of the golfers that finished high at the CJ Cup had played at the CIMB the year before, or the week before. So since those were in the same area, I kind of used that, came to the CJ Cup, applied to that because the Shriners was played the week before, both in Vegas. If ZOZO was in Japan last year and the CJ Cup was in South Korea, then CJ Cup this year being in Vegas and the ZOZO being in California kind of match up, if you're catching my drift. I don't know if I made that more complicated than it needed to be, but long story short, I think golfers who played last week are going to have an advantage, or the bucket's going to be a little bit larger. So really, I should have just kept this as a last year one, or a last week one, and this is a last week two. Should have, but when we look at the DK page, you're going to see those two. Okay. That was probably a little too long, honestly. So here we come to the DK page. We will talk grass stats, we will talk swing stats, and then cover the tee time pairings. But first, what I want to do is show you a little something. So I actually have been working on kind of updating the spreadsheet, trying to make it look a little better, but also really going over better stats. So for this week, what I have in front of you is basically grabbed the essential pieces of information that I find kind of essential. I included the value. I never talk about value, but I included the value just so we could kind of see, if we're looking at last week's stats, maybe we can find a top value golfer who's playing well, and then, determine if we want to play them. So that's kind of the purpose of having value here. I don't talk about value, but I just want to see. It's kind of, this is trial and error, basically. But either way, all my essentials here, you have the SS number, which I actually created with a purpose this week. So we'll see how well that does. And then I put that rank next to it. So this would be the SS rank, basically. I know that sounds funny. Sounds very, 1940s Germany type of stuff. Which I shouldn't laugh about, but I understand what it sounds like. Anyways, basically what this spreadsheet's going to serve is, I looked at last week's stats. I'm going to hide some of this stuff just because I don't care to see it. I want to see all of this. There we go. Now we have all of it on one page. Perfect. Basically what I want to do is look at last week's result. This obviously correlates with the bucket. So last year twos are golfers who finished inside the top 20, which you can see right there. But I also want to see, what their scoring average was, what their low round of the week was, because obviously that means lots of birdies typically if, the low round is really, really low. How many rounds under 70? The more rounds under 70, obviously the better. We want to find a golfer who gets 4 rounds under 70, get that sub 70 bonus. You know, what the percentage was. Now, this is obviously one event, so it might be, you know, fool's gold to put this kind of information on there, but I have all the strokes gained data now for last week. I've been kind of saving some of it up. I found a way on how to extract it, so I will be able to include it. And then obviously, again, the pipe dream, getting a database all put together, I can pull that data from it, and I can add this week in, week out to the database. So I will also have a strokes gain database, which will be nice. So I have 3 weeks already saved up. I'm going to get to something really quickly. Once I get to 7 weeks of data, I can actually include that in my last week or recent form strokes gained, since I look at the last 7 weeks, which should be very close to the Masters. So I think I will have 6 weeks of data, but I think that'll be good enough. Anyways, I'm really curious to see how the last week bucket does, and that's kind of what the whole purpose of this page is, compared to the strokes gained stats that were given from last week as well. So we're combining the strokes gained to go with the last week bucket. So we will see how that ends up. I will include another column here with the result once the tournament is over, just to see how well the golfers did within their bucket. Because obviously, if we were to go by like tee to green and just look at the best tee to green golfers and then find their bucket, you know, if the leaderboard kind of shakes out like this, goes from top to bottom, then obviously we can be like, okay, we want to include tee to green with our bucket, or off the tee, or whatever. But we'll see. We'll see how that ends up, how that pans out after the tournament is over. We might come back to this for this DK page, but I just wanted to show you this is in the works. And really, here's the dream spreadsheet. Let me zoom in. So the dream spreadsheet obviously, again, has the essential information. Then the tournament information, you know, starting hole, tee time, you know, what game it is. Odds, I don't ever think about odds. We can't bet in Minnesota yet, so I really don't. I know we can, you know, do offsite type of things, but, you know, I don't know. But I also have a lot of this information already pulled and saved, so I'll be able to actually put all of this information down. So again, shot shape, their home state. I'm not going to go put their city because it really doesn't matter. What region that is on the United States, because typically grass stats matter when it comes to region. College state, college region. Again, you spent 4 years of adolescence there. I almost want to, not adolescence, but adulthood, your, you know, first years of adulthood. I wanted to put birthplace, but like Jason Kokrak is a perfect example. He was born in Canada and 2 weeks later went back home with his mom to the United States. His mom was just visiting like friends and family in Canada and then delivered Jason Kokrak. His mom was an American citizen, so he was born in Canada, but by accident. Means he doesn't have any ties to Canada other than being born there. So we kind of have to watch out for that kind of stuff. And honestly, if someone only lived there for 7 years of their, you know, the beginning of their life, that doesn't mean anything when it comes to that. So I don't have birthplace or anything like that, although I am recording that information as well. Age might matter. We'll see. And then their official world golf ranking. And then I have course fit, going over the grass stats. You know, if there was a second grass stat to look at. So if a course was like POA and bent, you know, looking at that. Here's where it really gets into the good stuff. So recent form, last 7 weeks, I will be recording this information, throwing it here, and then we will be able to look at recent form data. And then obviously you're familiar with this because I just showed you it. last week scoring stats. So again, this would also be all your strokes gained, that kind of stuff, just from the week prior. And then they're season long. So we'll look at, you know, all of their information just as a baseline. From there, the baseline versus recent form, last 7 weeks. Now we could use the last week, but I think I don't know. I think I'm just going to be fine with doing 7 weeks minus the baseline, because I feel like that's going to be a little bit more I don't know. It's going to have more data, so it's going to be, oh my gosh, what am I trying to think of? Just a more consistent, play. I don't want to look at last week and see Bubba gaining 10 strokes tee to green and thinking, oh wow, he's way above his baseline. There's no way he's going to live up to this. But if the last 7 weeks show he's been at 7 strokes, tee to green, and his obviously baseline was like 1 point whatever, it's going to be like, well, he's on a heater, that kind of thing. So anyways, that's the Dream Spreadsheet. If you guys have any suggestions on what to add or how to make it better, please let me know. Okay, so let's go ahead and just jump back into the ZOZO. We're done talking about this. Let's go to the 2021 DK page. First thing I want to mention is the SweetSpot Rank. This actually has some merit to it this week. I found a way to weight these very well based off of price range. So really, every price range, I'll list the price ranges for you right now. It's 10K and above, 9 to 10, 8 to 9, 7 to 8, 6 to 7. Those are the price ranges. That's what each golfer's compared to. So their number is going to be high, but this doesn't really, it doesn't, what am I trying to say here? Here, let me just sort it. So like Scotty Scheffler is the highest ranked golfer this week. But that's not to say he's the highest. I mean, he's like, for his price tag at $8,200, you would want to play him more times than anyone else in that 8K range. Now, again, what I'm trying to get at is Scotty Scheffler, I wouldn't play him over someone like Jon Rahm, Justin Thomas, or Rory McIlroy, despite their numbers being lower than Scotty Scheffler. Again, they're based off of their range. So one issue I had with ranking this before was my 6 to 7K golfers were always around 1. Their ranking was always 1.2, 1.4, so on and so forth. Well, I finally found a way to match their numbers with the golfers, up top. Because it was very frequent that these numbers would be, 20 times larger than anyone 8K and below. So it didn't make any sense to me. And although I had those numbers up here and tried to explain it to you guys, for whatever reason, it just wasn't working out. It just, in a way, I knew what those numbers meant, but there's no way I was going to be able to explain them properly to you guys. However, this is more of a better rounded scoring system. Everyone in the 6K range, despite their number being so large, I'm not giving you the vote of confidence to say, yes, play Mackenzie Hughes in all of your lineups. That is not what this number here entails. It's just, so what I looked at were DK points, so season-long DK points. I looked at scoring average for the year. I looked at their lowest round. So basically the differential between their lowest round and their scoring average. I use that as a multiplier. Reason being, this is the likelihood of them going low. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler has a 59 in there, so that's, you know, the difference between that 59 and his scoring average makes his multiplier a little high. That's why that number is pretty large. Either way, that also means he has no issue going low. And that is every golfer up here has no issue going low compared to their scoring average. So they're also some of the most volatile golfers. Keep that in mind. I know I highlighted Rahm and Matthew Wolff. Don't worry about that. That's not something that, like, they're not volatile golfers. Obviously, it really depends on who we're talking about, right? So 6K golfers are your volatile golfers. They can go low. That's all I'm trying to say. The higher the price tag, the more confidence I would say to play them. So obviously Jon Rahm, the highest price guy in this field according to my scoring system. Matthew Wolff is right behind him. And then Cantlay comes in third when it comes to these high price guys. Webb is up there despite not playing last week. So really, out of your high price guys, obviously when I sort this back by salary, keep the numbers in mind. Obviously lower numbers are going to be better. So you can see I've highlighted the low ones that we've already looked at, but you can see how, you know, there isn't a huge difference between one to the other. I guess we could also look at this comparative to salary. You know, Rahm, in my opinion, a better play than the rest of the guys that are in this 10K and above range, followed by Tyrrell Hatton, Rory McIlroy, Xander, and then JT. If you have convictions for any of these golfers, by all means play them. You know, don't necessarily be completely influenced by what I'm saying, but I would tell you right now, I like Rahm. No matter, I actually do really like Rahm at this golf course. I think this is a good spot for him. He's not the highest price guy, and he is in that last year bucket one. Although we'll see how much that matters. He did not play here the year before. He didn't play the ZOZO, so I think he's definitely going to be one of the guys to look at who has not played the ZOZO before, that can finish inside the top 10. So I do think the last year bucket is live this year. So anyways, that is explaining the sweet spot score. Let's talk about let's actually just sort by buckets, and we're going to go by the last week bucket, primarily because I think this is going to be a little bit more telling than trying to go by the last year bucket. So we'll go by last week bucket. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to talk about each of these buckets. So we're just going to look at all the stats for the guys in the buckets, and that's how we're going to determine our best plays for the DK strategy. Everyone in the last week bucket one, golfers who did not play last week. We can look at recent form average. Might as well. We're going to go left to right. So let's go ahead. We're not going to talk about tee times just yet. We will come back to that. Yeah. Tournament history we're not talking about, obviously, because, you know, this has only been played once. But recent form average. I have no idea what Patrick Reed did last week over in Europe, but here in the States, so these are all PGA Tour events. Over the last 7 weeks, that's what the recent form average is taking into account. Patrick Reed is the best golfer in this bucket for recent form. And obviously you can see the rest of them on the screen. And let's just scroll through this really quickly, because I can come back and talk about my favorite plays. Your best scoring average belongs to Webb Simpson, 68.98. His differential is 5.98. Now, how to read this, how to look at this is, first of all, how low is this score? You know, it's based off of color coding. Obviously, dark green is really good and red is not. You can see the average between the, the difference between the two. Now, when we look at their low round of the year, you can see Phil Mickelson and Webb Simpson are tied 63-63. Mickelson's scoring average is a little bit higher than Webb's, meaning he has many, many days where, obviously he's shooting 75 and above. So that means that differential is going to be higher for Phil, despite having the same low round of 2020 for Webb and for Phil. It just means Phil's more volatile. So you have to take his price into account as well. You could look at someone like Adam Scott, 69.98. His differential is 5.98. Not that different. I mean, it's not impressive, right? He's not a volatile golfer. It's just showing you he's a safe play. And at 7,900, you could do much worse. One golfer that does not have stats that obviously is worth mentioning. Like, I shouldn't say doesn't have stats. He doesn't play enough to actually populate some of these stats. So Tiger Woods, his scoring average, I don't have it. I have yet to put together all of my scoring. Let's just say my scoring database. I have yet to put that together. So I don't have all the rounds of golf that Tiger has recently played in. I wouldn't include the US Open because that was a tough track and that would be very unfair to throw that in here. But for 2020 events, I really don't know. I don't remember all the events he played in. So either way, Tiger, I actually think he'd probably be like around 70. I don't think he'd be lower than Tony Finau. So I think that'd be a little different. And obviously his low round is at 64. So it ties, Adam Scott, but I think his differential would be the lowest out of everyone here. Actually, let me take that back. He would be higher than these three golfers, meaning at $9,000, he's not a better play than the three guys up here. Okay, so next piece of information. I'm spending way too much time talking about this. Percentage of rounds under 70. Now, this is a little mistelling because this stat is the stat I pull from only gives me events. It doesn't give me rounds. And I'm assuming each event is 4 rounds. Some of these golfers might not actually play 4 rounds in an event because they'll miss the cut or they'll withdraw. But all that's saying is that means this number is lower than it should be. Meaning someone like Webb Simpson, and I actually won't even say that because he probably makes the cut way more than any of the other golfers below him. And that's why his number is so good. But still, even if you were to bump it up, say like 2%, it's still really good. And it probably still trumps most of these people here. But as you can see, Webb Simpson, the best for last week bucket ones when it comes to percentage of rounds under 70. So really, Webb seems like a surefire play out of this bucket. And if you are going to choose Webb, you probably can't pick anyone else. And I wouldn't even suggest it. So if you are thinking about playing Webb, I mean, maybe Adam Scott. That might be it. Because there are many other golfers that are you want to be playing. And you don't want to be kind of salary hamstrung based off of just using last week ones. So maybe, and when we look at this, the original analysis was we wanted to find probably around 3. This was your highest ranked bucket. But I don't know. I'm not seeing it. We might actually find 2 or 3 golfers in this bucket inside the top 10. That's for you guys to find out. I almost would say just toss those guys away, even this guy, and these two guys. So really, I think it's just Phil, Tiger, Patrick Reed, Adam Scott, Finau, and Simpson. So those 6 golfers. I think one of them for sure is going to finish inside the top 10. I don't think all of them are. Or not all of them. I mean, if I was giving you a percentage, I'd say I'm 50% in on 2 of them being inside the top 10. Probably 10 to 15% of 3 of them being inside the top 10. But I'm pretty close to 90% of one of them being inside the top 10. So do your math on whether or not you think the salary is going to be worth it or not, and go from there. Your best bent grass golfer in this range is Tony Finau. Best 2020 bent grass stat actually goes to Patrick Reed. So we could talk about season-long stats, and really this is just over the last... This is from the beginning of the 2021 season. I don't really see how this is going to be any helpful. I mean, I think this is a stat that comes from the U.S. Open, so it's really mistelling, and I don't think we're really going to talk about swing stats. Not until I actually finally put together, a strokes gained database. That way I can actually pull these stats to more accurately reflect, how these guys are doing. So we're not going to talk about that. But if I were to choose golfers out of this, I mean, in my opinion, I think it has to be Webb, then Finau, and then Scott. I think those are my 3 top plays in that bucket. Let's go ahead and go to last week bucket 2, which I think we're going to find, not a lot, but a lot of good golfers. So this bucket is topped with Xander, John Rahm, JT, Tyrrell Hatton, Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland, Harris English, Bubba Watson, Kokrak, Neiman, Fitzpatrick, Henley. I mean, you see all the names here. It's a hell of a bucket. Now, with that being said, I think you can only play... I shouldn't say you can only play. I think you're going to want to play at least 3. I think 3 last year bucket 2s make it inside the top 10. Could be a little bit more. It might be 1 or 2 more. So I think it's 100% that 3 of these guys finish inside the top 10. Easy to say because some of the best golfers are here. But either way, I think, if you were to anchor with 3 of these guys, you're looking good. I would put 4 of these guys inside the top 10 at about 75%. 5 of these guys probably around 30 or 40%. And I think it probably falls off pretty drastically from there. So really, you could start some of your lineups with 5 of these guys. Yeah. And really, you can see the other last year buckets that go with it. So there are, we'll give them experience for playing in the ZOZO, which is, you have to think of strength of field. I think it's a very similar strength of field as the ZOZO last. Actually, this strength of field is a little bit stronger. And maybe not even a little bit, maybe a lot of it stronger than last year's field. So I think if we had Rory and Hideki and Tiger with Gary Woodland, but I'm never putting Gary Woodland in the same breath as these 3 golfers. 4, 5. Well, 4 for sure. I'm not sold on Victor Hovland yet. So anyways, yeah, that was the last week bucket 2. Actually, might as well talk about, all the other things. Your top recent form guy, obviously Xander. He is scorching hot and the price tag reflects it. You can see the rest of the guys here. Scoring average. So one thing I forgot to mention, the lowest scoring average in the field is 68.98. The highest is 71.23. The field average is 70.25 and the tour average is 71.099. So obviously this field much better than the tour average. And again, 68.98 is the lowest. It's color coded based off of how low this is. So JT has the best scoring tied with John Rahm. Those two have the best scoring average. Xander's very close behind. And then it's Harris English, $8,800. I don't know. That might be a little too expensive for me, honestly, because I'm probably targeting at least two guys in the 10K and above range. I don't see how I can really get a lot on Harris English. Maybe I'll make one lineup that's a little bit even, whatever you want to call it. Balanced is the word I'm looking for. I'm not going to talk about the low round. We can look at the differential. So your highest differential belongs to Joaquin Niemann. So obviously, again, this is the, I almost want to call it the propensity to go low, but really it's the difference between scoring average, low round. It might best be explained as your volatility for each golfer. The higher the number, the higher the volatility. So, which makes sense. Ryan Palmer's up there right away. Really interesting to see Jon Rahm. But I'm also not discouraged to see it. 69.13, again, tied for the best scoring average. He has the ability to go extremely low in comparison to his other golfers here. But obviously then he can, go a little, he can get a couple of rounds up there that are a little high. But yeah, you can see everything up here. Cam Smith, I think, might be a great play. He might be one of the guys that finishes inside the top 10 at $7,200. So worth a look. Let's look at the percentage of rounds under 70. Rahm is your leader, tied with Xander, I should say. So those two tied at the top. Harris English is next at $8,800. Then it's Tyrrell Hatton, Justin Thomas. I think one of the more surprising ones to see would be Colin Morikawa down here. It's not a terrible percentage of rounds under 70, 46%. It's pretty good still, but I think we want that to be a little bit better for somebody that's $9,800. Overall Bentgrass stat, Jon Rahm is the best in the field. He's obviously going to be the best in this bucket, and it is by 10 strokes. So he has a better Bentgrass average finishing position than anyone else in this bucket. For 2020 Bentgrass, Xander's at the top, followed by JT, and then Jon Rahm. So a lot of things are pointing to me to play Jon Rahm. I really like Jon Rahm. I also like JT. And I have no issues with Xander. If he was really working the ball both directions last week, man, that sounds really good for this golf course. But I think this is a Rahm course. So I guess if I'm going to rank my last year bucket twos, I'd say it's Jon Rahm, number 1, followed by, it's really close, but I think it's got to be Xander, then JT, Harris English, Morikawa, Hatton, Hovland. That's my ranking. And you can see Bubba Watson's in this. So if you are a Bubba truther this week, $8,700 is a little bit of a discount from any of the other guys at the top. So do with that as you will. Last week bucket threes, believe it or not, Rory McIlroy finds himself in this bucket. These are golfers who finished 20th to 40th last week. Go back to the bucket system. What we see with last week threes, one golfer finishing inside the top 10. Now, I think looking at this bucket, the chance of more than one finishing inside the top 10 is pretty high. But with that being said, a lot of people are on many of these golfers in this bucket. If we're going to follow the bucket system for 1 year's worth of data, 1 year, I know, but if that bucket is already kind of telling us don't play more than one or two of these guys, and it follows through, obviously that's obviously a bucket to look forward to going forward. But I think 100% one finishes inside the top 10. But for two finishing inside the top 10, I'm going to drop it down to 50. And then I would say for three finishing inside the top 10, it's not going to be that big of a drop, but it's going to drop to 25%. And it's a lot of it just goes by with the golfers that are in this bucket. I like Rory. I think Rory sneakily has been actually playing some of the best golf. He's obviously not scoring right now. Actually, I don't remember. We can look at last week. What did Rory do tee to green? He had 2 rounds under 70, the lowest being 66, so that's really good. His approach was actually really bad. Tee to green, not terrible. Off the tee, obviously really good. Approach around the green, not the greatest. Putting stats, I honestly believe putting stats will always be higher when these two are lower. Unless your name's Tyrrell Hatton. Jeez. Putting stat and approach was good. Not so much off the tee. So he's more of a precision golfer. Either way. Rory, those approach numbers, not very much like Rory. But if this continues, that is an issue heading into Augusta. I think that's very similar to, I want to say last year, when he was not doing that great with approach and he let us down. I wouldn't say let us down, but didn't really play the Masters that great that year. So, yeah, Rory, I like him. Approach didn't look that great. I'm just going to actually take all that back, what I was saying, what I liked about Rory's game. No, let's not do that. I hate doing that when it comes to strokes gained. So why I said he's sneakily becoming, he's sneakily getting better because he's trying to shape shots. He's trying to go left to right and right to left. He's trying to become a more all-around golfer. He's putting in the time. He's putting in the pursuit. If he gets it dialed in, he's already proven to be one of the best approach players, especially when his wedges are dialed in. He's one of the best drivers, obviously, out there. So when he gets the control of shot shaping down, he will then just obviously be that much further ahead, and really might not be able to be stopped. So I do like Rory. Cantlay really can only draw the golf ball. Solid, very precise, but I don't know. I'm going to play, he might just be in my one lineup that I throw in a winner take all. I think I can fade Cantlay pretty easy here. Matsuyama and Berger both hit fades, and I think they hit the right kind of fade here. Just the small 5 yard to 10 yard fade, which is, your butter cut. So I think that's a good play. The rest of the golfers in this range, I don't know. Very difficult. Let's look at the stats. Best recent form belongs to Rory by double over Daniel Berger, who, remember when the tournament restarted after COVID, he was the hottest golfer on the planet. Obviously cooled down since then, so I don't know exactly what for or why, but worth mentioning. Matsuyama's down here, 34.5 is his recent form average. I don't know how I really feel about that, so not that great. Scoring average, Rory McIlroy at the top, then Daniel Berger. And you can see the rest of them. I'm not going to talk about all of them. You have the ability to pause the video at any time and take a screenshot or just analyze it yourself. Your most volatile golfer in this range would be Tyler Duncan. So he can go really low. He is the 3rd ranked golfer on the SweetSpot model. But again, that's based off of the price tag. So he's a high ranked golfer inside the 6K range. If you're looking for a 6K golfer, it might be Duncan. It might be Harry Higgs, or it might be Tom Hoge. All 3 of them, very volatile golfers. they can get you some low rounds, or a low round, that is. Might be worth a showdown play, basically. Percentage of golfers who shoot under 7, not percentage of golfers, percentage of rounds under 70. Daniel Berger actually tops it out, 3 points above Rory. And then Matsuyama's down there, 52%. So, is 52% worth playing Matsuyama? I'm not sure. Brian Harmon, to me, is a sneaky play this week. Hits a draw. He's a lefty. That sets up perfect for this golf course. So I might play a few shares of Brian Harmon, and his SS rank isn't terrible, which does not include him hitting a draw. Best bent grass golfer in this range, Rory McIlroy, followed by Hideki Matsuyama, like super close. So I think this is one of his best putting surfaces. And then Jordan Spieth, no surprise, Masters darling. His stats are always going to be good because of that place. Ricky Fowler comes in, fourth. So all your top price guys are up here. No one from the bottom price, kind of makes its way up here. And kind of the same when it comes to 2020 bent. But Matsuyama's at the top, followed by Berger and McIlroy. Okay. Let's go ahead and speed through some of the rest of these here. Here you go with the last week bucket 4. Matthew Wolff is in this. He is a new member of this golf course. Kind of interesting to see him in this bucket. It's not a very good bucket to make the top 10. One time it? Okay, so never mind. At least one time it's happened last year. Never mind. Just one time it happened last year. But not really a good bucket when we look at the entirety of no-cut events. But as we look at it, obviously Matthew Wolff is your top guy. When it comes to recent form, top salary guy, that is. Recent form, Matthew Wolff is at the top. That actually is not surprising whatsoever, although he finished 73rd last week. He did look all sorts of out of sorts, basically. Not very good recent form within this range. Scoring average doesn't look good either. Gary Woodland actually holds some of the best scoring average. But that, I will say this. This is most of 2020. This does not include, the last 4 events. So Gary Woodland's scoring average might be a little bit higher than this, but 2020, he was pretty consistent. And his differential wasn't that high. So your highest differential golfers, remember, most volatile, we have Mackenzie Hughes at the top, $6,500. So that might be another 6K golfer to target, because obviously he can go really low. Matthew Wolff would be right behind him. He does not have a good scoring average, believe it or not, but he can go low and he can get hot. But when he's not hot, he's not good. So I'm not sure how to take that. Rounds under 70, the percentage. Top guy is Paul Casey, 53.33%. That's really good. He is a boring golfer who, I don't know, but his shot shape does not match this course fit, so I'm not really picking him. I do like Alex Noren, however. Despite him playing like crap last week, I don't think that was a good course fit for him, but I do believe this course is. So we'll see if that course fit actually follows through. Look at bent grass stats. Matthew Wolff actually holds the best, but when we look at the other 3 buckets prior to, we had golfers in the 20s, if not lower. This bucket range does not have golfers within a good overall bent range. 2020 bent, not good either. So, I mean, it might be a bucket to avoid at all costs, but I think you can find some good 6K golfers in Alex Noren or Mackenzie Hughes, even Brendan Steele. Brendan Steele's, I think he fits this course fit pretty nicely. Last week, bucket 5s. I don't think we're going to see too many of these, but we actually do. It's actually an extremely interesting bucket. because you have a lot of notable golfers in this. A lot of golfers I like. Wow. I'll throw this out there. Only one of these golfers is finishing inside the top 10. Only one. Pick your golfer wisely. So, in my opinion, I think it's Scheffler or it's Im. I would say this doesn't suit his shot shape. Doesn't suit his shot shape. Does suit his shot shape, as does Cameron Champ. You know what? I'm gonna change what I say. I'm not gonna take that bold strategy away. I'm gonna say one of these golfers finishes inside the top 10. I'm gonna give that a 50% chance. Two of them, I'm gonna say 10%. So really, this is where the bucket system comes in. Says, hey, table your expectations for having multiple of these golfers in your lineup and doing well. Who knows? I really like Carlos Ortiz. I think this course actually suits his shot shape really nicely. Actually, let's go through the rest of the stats and we can determine if it's a good play or not. I mean, his value is very high, as is Kisner, Kuchar, and Champ. Brennan Todd, very good as well. Recent form average, the best one is Sungjae, 23.8. And then it kind of falls pretty sharply after that. Best scoring average. So again, 68.98 is the lowest. Average is 70.25. Only 3 golfers in this bucket fall under that scoring average, with Tommy Fleetwood being really close. So that's worth mentioning. But Scottie Scheffler, best scoring average, followed by Sungjae, like very close. And same with Brennan Todd. Those 3 golfers, very close. Most volatile golfer, no surprise, Scottie Scheffler, 10.71. I think that's the highest in the field. That is also why he is ranked the highest. This is just the potential to score well, really. That's what the sweet spot model is based off of. It's all about scoring. And Scottie Scheffler has scored some of the best points in the last, I don't know, month and a half, 2 months. So definitely worth a consideration. Kevin Na, believe it or not, would be second at $6,900. He's not a bad play under 7K. Same with Matt Kuchar. Percentage of rounds under 70, pretty close up here at the top. No one's like really stepping, trying to push themselves away. But an interesting golfer that joins the fray would be Byung-Hun An. Not quite sure how I feel about that because he's very unreliable. Overall Bentgrass stats, best golfer is Justin Rose, but these stats go back to 2013. So really, he's past his prime. A lot of these stats just look really good. I will say this, at $7,400, I think this is where he should be. He's been in the 9K range a little too much in the last year. He's much like Matt Kuchar, and I think that's where we need to place him. He needs to be in that price range, and this is classic Matt Kuchar range, basically. So $7,400, I think, is good. And speaking of Matt Kuchar, he's right underneath him. Again, 2013 historical data. That's as far as it goes back. That's why a lot of these guys are doing decent, but yeah. Best 2020 Bentgrass belongs to Kevin Kisner. This ain't no hobby. It doesn't surprise me, but it's still not impressive. Really, it's not. None of this is good. So, anyways, last bucket to cover. I think only Jason Day's in it. Is your last year 6s, which don't bode well, just for the sheer fact that there aren't many 6s to begin with. So maybe he'll do well. Actually, how about this? We will talk about something about Jason Day. But it's not going to be on this page. Okay. So that's kind of the bucket analysis. Going through each golfer, looking at their salaries. I'll get to we might as well look at Jason Day right now. Jason Day. He only played 3 rounds of golf last week, and in those 3 rounds of golf, he had a 68.67 average round score. His scoring average was 68.67. That is pretty good. Low round was 66. I think he had a 66, a 70, and a 70. So like really close to having all 3 rounds under 70. You can see what his strokes gained were. When is Jason Day ever bad at putting? That's kind of remarkable. So if he found some kind of form with his golf swing, I think he's probably worth the play, but he did withdraw because of a stiff neck. You know, speculate all you want as to what those causes are. I am not sure I would trust playing someone like Jason Day. $7,600 though, that throws him in. I mean, that's that Matt Kuchar price range. I think it's worth a play, honestly. I don't feel excited or trustworthy of it, but it's worth a play. Okay, last thing I want to discuss. This video is already super long, way longer than it should be. We're gonna go through tee time pairings. Basically, what I did was look at scoring average, and if it was under the field average, I highlighted that golfer. But if there was another golfer in his group, I just went the next color of the stoplight. So we go from red to yellow. And then if there were 3, we went to green. So it only really happened once, the green. And I'll show you why. 7.26 is just over. It's 0.01 over the field average in this, obviously in this tournament. I thought that was still good enough to highlight all 3 of these golfers. But when we look at tee time pairings, we're going to see some of these guys inside the top 10. Last week, the green, there were like 2 groups that were dark green. 3 of them finished inside the top 20. I should say not 3 of them, but the group, that whole entire group finished inside the top 20. But also Xander was in that group and he finished second. So I think we're going to see something like that this week. Definitely want to pair some of these guys up together. But red are lone wolves. Yellow means there's a partner. Green means the whole group. So obviously look at the names here. I'm not going to talk much about them. I do like Jon Rahm. He's paired with Hideki Matsuyama. I think that's fantastic. Rose might get a bump. He might get a bump playing with these 2 guys. But I've said it many times before, Matsuyama usually plays on his own island. Nothing really, he doesn't really play off of people, and people don't play off of him. He is all to himself. He's he kind of groomed himself that way. So I'm not sure exactly how that'll all work, but I think you would like to think it's going to help Jon Rahm. These 2 guys are very level-headed guys. I think what could happen is if he does run a little hot, these 2 aren't going to give him the, hey man, it's okay type of speech. They're going to be probably more cold, which will just get him more pissed off. And I don't think it's going to be the pissed off that actually does well. I think it's the pissed off that does poorly. But either way, if he does run hot, I don't think these guys are really going to, hurt his chances anyways. I do like Jon Rahm, but the volatility is high. Gary Woodland, don't like. Xander Schauffele, do like. Very interesting group. Tiger Woods and Matthew Wolff. It's worth a play. I might just play this in one lineup. I do like Tiger this week. It favors golfers who hit a fade. We haven't seen him, but either way, I do like his chances. This group seems interesting, minus Ryo Ishikawa. Scheffler and Noren, 2 guys I do like. And Noren, I think, is a pretty decent 6K play. Henley, English, and Jane Watananon. I'm not positive how I feel about this. I mean, I think Henley just flashes one tournament at a time, but Harris English had been playing really well leading into the US Open, and then his first tournament after the US Open, he did poorly. I think that was the Shriners. But then last week, he did pretty decent. So I like Harris English, and I actually do think that'll boost up Henley's chances of playing well. Answer's in a good group. Hoagie, very volatile golfer, can go really low. That might help out Answer. I don't care for the Asian golfer that's in there. Never heard of him. Might be worth a play. Probably not. Despite two of these guys being highlighted, I don't like this group at all. Hatton, Hovland, and Kadira. I actually don't mind Hovland with Hatton, primarily because they both hit fades, so they're going to be able to see the same golf course. You know, they're going to see the same golf course with the same shot shape. I think that'll help them quite a bit, and I think that's what you need to look at when it comes to tee time pairings. JT, Reed, Morikawa. Here's your marquee group. I really favor Thomas and Morikawa, primarily because they're going to see the same shot shape and probably pretty close to the same distance, although I think JT does edge him out quite a bit. Reed is just going to be snap hooking everything into the junk. I mean, that probably won't happen, but he has a propensity to do that. So he's not going to see the course the same way these two guys do. I don't know how much it helps or hurts them, but I do know seeing the same shot shape off of the tee box is going to be very beneficial. Very interesting group here. They're all last year bucket threes, which to me, not a good sign at all. Despite them being green, I don't know. I don't like that at all. And then Roy McIlroy with Webb Simpson and Phil Mickelson. Now, Phil, a very volatile golfer, so obviously can go low and might actually feed off of someone like Rory or Webb. Honestly, I think all three of them talk to each other. I think all three of them enjoy each other's company. I guess I don't really see anything being terrible. I mean, if Phil hits a nice fade, Rory's going to follow it with a draw, and as is Webb Simpson. So this actually might be a better group than I originally thought. And I think Phil might be worth a play, despite a lot of people giving him hate because of his age. So that is the tee time pairing. I don't have anything else to talk about that. This video is already running super long, so I'm going to cut it short here. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about, the dream sheet that I called it. This spreadsheet that has all of this information up here. Do you like it? Do you want me to add something to it? I think it looks pretty fantastic, honestly. I'm excited to actually start populating it, trying to basically automate population for this. That will be nice. I will get there eventually. I didn't go into creating lineups. I'm not going to. It's too late. It is too long. The video has already gone way too long. But yeah, last look at the SS rank, the SweetSpot rank that is. Just read and weep. Primarily probably just weep. A lot of golfers in the last year bucket 1. I guess if I get rid of that, you can see the rest of them here, which might be better for you to try to choose which top price guy you want to go with. But I think that is going to conclude. I don't remember anything I wanted to bring up, and I don't think anything is pertinent to do so. So, thank you for watching. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in a review video on Sunday. All right, bye.